Welcome to Mommy Space, the podcast for moms of all stages. My name is Aubrey Coots, and this podcast was created to give moms a voice to share their experiences and to share that there is not just one way to be a mom. This is a place where you can learn to love the woman inside the mother. Welcome back to Mommy Space. This is Aubrey Coots, and today I get to chat with my friend Timea Walker. And I'm very excited to just get to hear a little bit more about her story. And this month with the theme for Mommy Space being Black History, although that's not the overall focus of these episodes. Mostly I just wanted to learn from Black women in my life and that I've been connected to, and some that I don't know very well this month, just to learn from them and to hear a different perspective in things that they experience and things that they've experienced in the past and how they're raising their kids. So I wanted to chat with Timea to hear some of that today. So Timea, welcome to Mommy Space.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. So getting started for listeners that don't know you, can you start by just telling a little bit about yourself, your family, and the story of your journey into motherhood?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Timea. Well, my name is Timea Walker, affectionately known to my family and friends as Timea. And that's how you know me, as Timea. Gosh, where do I start? My kids are grown. They're 20 and 23, and the time has flown by. Yeah, I mean, I've had a very unique and wonderful experience in motherhood, and I honestly cannot say enough about what my kids have taught me and the amount of character that was developed in me raising them. So, yeah.
Now that your kids, like you said, your kids are grown, that they're older, what are, can you just share a little bit about your kids?
Yeah. So my son is named Delton. My son was born totally blind. He is doing such amazing things. He was at California School for the Blind in San Francisco, and he went there for 5 years. It was a residential program. He would come home on the weekends and holidays, but by the time he graduated from the program, he was a completely different person.
Wow.
So it was very, very interesting to relearn him and respect his boundaries, and just having him back as a grown man, because when he left, he was 16 getting ready to be 17.
Wow.
And so he came back a grown man. And
you're like, where's my boy?
Yeah, often reminds me of that. So and then my daughter is 20. She's in college right now. She's a junior. She has her own business. She's doing just amazing. I could not be more proud. So,
yeah. That's amazing. What is her business? I don't think I knew that.
Her business is called Donuts and Grapes Babysitting. So yeah, she has built quite the clientele.
That's awesome.
Always really busy. So yeah,
she's
great. Definitely gonna expand. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with the theme for this month, and with February being Black History Month, I would love to hear if there's somebody that's maybe not as well known in Black history when we're studying people, that has impacted you.
Yeah. So a person just some background. My mother was a teacher, raising me and my brother, and so there was always a very high standard for reading and making sure that we were achieving in school. And so I know, especially with Black History Month, we hear a lot about activists and people along those lines. But one of my first memories of a person really, really impacting me is named Richard Wright. Richard Wright is an author. He wrote several books that a lot of people probably do know: Native Son, Black Boy. Um, but Native Son, I remember specifically reading Native Son with my mother, and just learning about how he was one of the first, actually, probably the first Black author who talked about the Black experience
Wow.
in a way that was so detailed that it really, really caught the attention of not only Blacks, but also white people. And
Yeah.
it was flying off the shelves, and it's still very, very relevant to this very, very day. So, yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
I haven't even heard of that book, so I'll put that on my list for sure.
Oh, anything from Richard Wright is
Okay.
going to be really, 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 yeah. He's a very um, thought-provoking author.
Okay.
He poses a lot of very challenging questions for Black and white.
Yeah.
Um, but any one of his books that you can get your hands on, uh, it would be a treat. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Very, very enlightening.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I'm
Uh-huh.
excited. Thanks for
Yeah, of
sharing that.
course. Yeah.
So the next question I have for you is, and this is kind of a broad question, so I'd love
Mm-hmm.
to just have you answer it however you'd like. But
Okay.
what does your Blackness mean to you?
Yeah. Okay. So, you know me. I have a Christian background. I absolutely love the Lord. Um, I try really hard to uh, not lead with race, but to always lead with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And with that being said, uh, my Blackness, so I definitely try really hard. Sometimes I'm not as successful, but I try really hard to never experience my Christianity through like my Blackness. I try to do
Yeah.
it the other way around because I do know
Mm,
the heart of man.
yeah.
Um, so it's kind of a tough question for me because because of my faith, but there is definitely a I feel like I have, especially when I read and I learn, I definitely have a lineage of strength um, through my Blackness, especially here in America. Um, but again, I try really hard not to lead with that
Yeah.
because it's very easy to it's very easy to fall off into this monolithic pro uh, everything black kind of a state of mind.
Yeah.
And I know that in the same way, the pro white is not palatable for everyone. The pro everything black is not palatable for everyone too. I mean, although the origins of a lot of the pro white and pro black are very, very, very different.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the pro black was very, very necessary
Yeah.
for our protection and
Yeah.
for our ability to move forward. So it's kind of a, it's definitely it's a, it's a struggle in where I never want to scapegoat um, my Black experiences and my Black history. I
Right.
never want to just completely scrap that because for Black people here in America, it's something that was absolutely necessary, and I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
those movements and for those people. Did I answer that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It was the kind of question that you could kind of answer it however you wanted, but the gospel shapes like who you are, not like
Right.
the other way around, like your
Right.
blackness shaping your view of the gospel or of,
Mm-mm.
the
Right.
way that you
Yes. Yes.
follow the
My
Lord.
identity is absolutely in Jesus Christ, and my experiences, even the very horrible experiences that I have had based on me being a Black person, I, um, I've just been really blessed to not uh, have this preconceived idea of all Mexican people or all white people or
Yeah.
all this people,
Yeah.
because again, my foundation is Christianity, and the heart of man is corrupt,
Yeah.
and there's no partiality with that. It
Yeah.
doesn't, like, the outside skin doesn't shape, it doesn't change the fact that man's heart is wicked. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a follow-up question. Obviously my family makeup looks very unique to other
Mhm.
families around
Mhm.
us. But I guess what's the balance within the church? Like,
Mhm.
yes, the gospel like brings us together and brings people from different backgrounds and different races together, and
Mhm.
unites us as family.
Mhm.
Um, why is it still important to value different cultures even within the
Mhm.
church instead of just being
Yeah,
like
that's a
my
great
church is a
question.
predominantly white church and we do have
Yeah.
people from different backgrounds, but right now that's
Mhm.
something that we're thinking through. Like we want um we want representation for our kids. We want
Mhm.
them to like
Mhm.
have people that look like them, that love
Mhm.
Jesus
Yeah, of
in
course.
their lives. And there are some,
Yeah.
but that's
Mhm.
something we've personally been like thinking through and wanting to
Mhm.
even just talk to our church about. Like we do a lot of things the
Mhm.
white way. so,
Yeah.
so like
Mhm.
what is that balance, I think, in the church context?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And the very harsh reality is Sunday mornings, church is probably still one of the most segregated places.
Right.
And, church history is ugly. It has a very dark, racist past.
Yeah.
Uh, and you honestly kind of see that manifesting
Hmm.
in the way churches are still so very segregated.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's why I put emphasis on like my personal walk, my
Yeah.
personal relationship, because I know that even the things that I'm saying, I know a lot of it is not uh, very palatable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I try really, really hard to, uh, like I said, like, try to not judge a person or try to not judge things that have happened to me with something as, how can I say it? With, I try not to judge people and try to judge things with something as, and I know that this isn't gonna, but like, in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
something as minute as skin color, because
Right.
it's the person's heart. It's the person's heart. And
Yeah.
sometimes the heart is shaped and developed by your skin color because of your experiences
Yeah.
and maybe the way you were raised,
Yeah.
and I get that and I understand that and I'm not blind to that. But my own personal uh, experiences and my own personal walk, I try really, really hard not to do that because I don't want to be angry. I
Yeah.
don't want to have, and I just don't have that level of hatred in my heart. I just don't. So I'm
Yeah.
very blessed in that area. I get mad. I get upset, especially
Yeah.
when I see things or, realize things around me. But I just try to handle things, you know, like I try not to get upset just because another person is upset. I try not to be controlled in that way.
That's a good reminder. And it's good to hear, like, for you personally, just kind of how that's been for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that I've always follow-up questions and
That's
another
okay.
thing. Do
That's
you,
okay.
um I maybe like with that being said, like, do you think it is important for churches to um I don't even know, like, to grow in like an understanding of like diversity within the church, or do you
Yeah, definitely. I mean, absolutely. I think that, instead of going into the urban neighborhoods and, the white preachers, starting his own church, I think that there should be a place of humility for him to learn from the Black pastors that are
yeah.
already established in urban communities, or even
Mm,
if it's not only an urban community of play. Like I feel like just with our history and the way um, the pattern of the United States, it's not difficult for Black people, or it's not out of order, if you will, for Black people to learn from white people,
mm,
but it is completely out of order for a white person to learn from a Black person.
mm.
And that's not right. I mean, neither scenario is right, you
Right.
know,
Right.
um, because, and that is another one of the issues that I have a problem with is like, don't try to whitewash the gospel,
Hmm.
don't blackwash the gospel, just teach the gospel,
Mm.
and I feel that way with history. Don't try to whitewash it, you know.
Yeah.
If history is taught the way it really, really happened, then uh, we would know about all of these wonderful, amazing uh, African Americans who um, really did so much to advance America.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be uh, just 1 month where we're trying to cram stuff in and
Yeah.
only only hear about the people that we've heard about since we were
Right.
in third and fourth grade.
Right.
It's like, don't whitewash it. Just teach
Mm.
history the way it happened.
Yeah.
But I know that that's very idealistic and um, you know, so
Yeah, that's a great point. And I loved what you said. It's very practical, even just like that concept of like, um, yeah, Black people have been learning from white people, or Black pastors learning from, like
right.
whatever,
And
like,
I am saying that in air quotes. I don't
right,
mean that.
right.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. But I think generally speaking, that's pretty true. Like, it's a
Yeah.
pretty true statement.
Yeah.
And I think even for myself personally, that's something that my husband, Alexis, has actually like challenged me with. He's like, try to like, and he does this too. He's like, who are like people of color that we can be learning from? Because we have our like
Hmm.
go to like authors or pastors or things like that that really have valuable things to say and are theologically
Hmm.
sound. But there's also a lot of Latino and African
Mm-hmm.
American, pastors and speakers and writers,
Mm-hmm.
with even within the church or the Christian community,
Mm-hmm.
that have really valuable things to
Yeah.
say that maybe aren't as well
Oh,
known, but
yeah.
that's something I've been challenged with and am trying to grow in, is like, okay, who are
Yeah.
people that maybe I haven't
Mm-hmm.
heard of that I can be
Mm-hmm.
reading, or different things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
Good.
All right, since I added 4 extra questions, we'll move right along.
That's fine.
What have been some personal challenges in being a Black woman and mom in predominantly white
Mm-hmm.
communities or spaces
Yeah.
or places?
Yeah. Uh, well, there is an incident that comes to mind that my daughter was in the first grade. She was 6 years old, and uh, my daughter's never had perms in her hair, or she's always worn her hair very, very natural, and her, she has a lot of hair, and
Yeah.
and she one morning I was doing her hair, and I'm putting, just like every morning, I was putting coconut oil and trying to do her cute little afro puffs, and I remember her saying, "Don't put that stuff in my hair." But I'm rushing. I'm trying to hurry up and get out to work. I'm like,
Right.
okay, just come on. And uh, I went to pick her up that day, and her friend Priscilla said to me, she said, "She's really mad. Serenity is crying. She's really upset." And I'm like, okay. So I go find my daughter. She was in uh, she did a after school like homework kind of a thing. And so I go find her, and she was so angry. And she's like, "I told you not to put that stuff in my hair." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? We use it every day."
Yeah.
And she said that her teacher, her white teacher, uh, told her to go wash that smell out of her hair. And Serenity told the teacher, "Well, I can't get my hair wet, you know." And her teacher told her, "Well, then sit in the back of the class."
Oh my God.
And uh, it's good that the teacher wasn't there, that the teacher was gone for the day. It's
Yeah.
really good. Um,
Oh my gosh.
but when I went the next morning and I talked to the principal, and I couldn't believe that, like, the level of support that the teacher has with this blatant racism.
Yeah.
She's, "Oh, well, Miss Such and Such has allergies." And I'm like, "Coconut oil? Like, no." And I wouldn't care what it was,
Right.
you know, that's not the way to handle that.
Right.
And I did talk to the teacher, and I basically told her that every single Black person that I know, which are a lot, have a memory of some white teacher making them realize their Blackness in a very negative way.
Mm.
Every single Black person that I know. And that will be your contribution to my daughter's life. That's it. You
Yeah.
will be the one that made her realize her Blackness in a very negative way.
Mm.
And of course, she starts all this crying, and, "No, I didn't mean this." But you can't unring a bell. That was it.
Yeah.
And then my daughter never went to that school again.
Yeah.
Um, so that
Gosh.
that is something that, you know, I was really, really sad that that happened,
Yeah.
because there's, what you take years and years and years to teach your kids, someone could come along in one day and just unravel all of that.
Yeah.
And I was really angry about that. And I didn't know how to keep, especially that experience. I didn't know how to just pray that away or just, oh, well, the Lord will take care of it. I was really,
Yeah.
really angry. Um, but more than that, I so badly didn't want my very young daughter to have um, anger in her heart. And I
Mm.
didn't want her to be trying to find her place on a Western white beauty spectrum. I wanted
Yeah.
her to know that she was beautiful and her hair was gorgeous, and it definitely took work. Um, you know, so yeah.
In that situation, and like I'm sure you probably have multiple other stories similar to that, just
Mhm.
either about your kids or even in your own life. Like, how do you, I guess, move forward from that, or like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think I kind of know, but like where is your hope, like outside, when things like that are
Well,
happening, like how do you keep going?
yeah. Well, the reality is I've had wonderful experiences from not only Black people, but people who are not Black.
Yeah.
And, it's sad that when something like that happens, it kind of, your urge is to wash away all the wonderful things that
Mm,
you've learned from all, that you've learned that other people can contribute um, to your life through their character. But the honest truth is, we we've had so many wonderful experiences, um, and it took time, uh, but it was honestly just a matter of continuing to be engaged and just trying to, you hate to teach your kids about racism so young, and you hate to teach them that it has like kind of this ghost kind of appearance,
mm,
because it will be very blatant racism, but then, the person who committed that act can say what the teacher said. Oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. I um have allergies, or, and then the person who didn't experience that, or the white people who hear that, have a tendency to go, oh my gosh, well, you're being so sensitive about that, or you're, when the reality is that Black people are not delusional about
yeah.
this treatment. Racism is definitely something that you feel. And it's honestly something that we just take it, try to let it pass through us, and keep going. But
Yeah.
she's 20 and she still remembers that. She remembers the teacher's name. She remembers what she was wearing that day. She
Oh,
remembers it,
yeah.
so yeah.
For you, what have been some of the greatest joys of being a Black woman?
Hmm. Yeah. So, again, just when I read about, you know, um, the legacy that African Americans have contributed to um, America, uh, not only to America, but the strength and just the resilience.
Mm,
I honestly can't help but feel a sense of pride and joy that I have that lineage in me.
yeah.
And just it's just such a wonderful experience to know that you your ancestors started here, and you come from fighters, and that it wasn't just Black people, um, fighting and killing.
Right.
It was Black people with a vision of how they wanted their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids uh, to experience life.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel the benefits from that. Of course, it's not perfect, it's not 100% where I want it to be.
Right.
But it, I definitely feel proud of the resilience
Yeah.
in my ancestors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
just curious, do you like know, just even in your like family line, like how far
Mhm.
back?
Yeah. And no.
Okay.
um, I know, I feel like I know what most of us know, and that's probably back to my great, great grandparents.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's that's it. But
Yeah.
it's better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something like even like for my kids, I still have contact with their biological grandmother,
Hmm.
and that's something that I would just love to like hear from her at some point, like just
Yeah.
to be able to share with my kids, just like if she knows any of that information. I knew that she grew up in Alabama, and so I'm sure
Yeah.
that was a different experience than, if she would have been out here. Well, maybe not, but so yeah, I'm always like interested, like just for anyone, it's interesting to like know and hear,
Oh,
where you've come
yeah,
from.
because
But
well, yeah, because it helps you understand who you are.
right,
It definitely helps you understand why you may do certain things. My
yeah,
mother is very, um, she's a very soft woman. She does not raise her voice. She has, just an amazing heart. She's a devout Christian woman. As far back as I can remember, she, um, would wake up and read and study the Word of God, and just the way she's, um, just reared my brother and
mm.
I. Uh, but me and my brother have these tempers,
Mm.
and it's like, where where do we get this? We've
Yeah,
never seen that kind of behavior out of my mom,
yeah,
you know. But then, just getting closer to my dad's family and learning, where we probably got these behaviors. It just definitely helped me understand myself as a whole,
yeah,
and not beat myself up so hard because I'm not as gracious and patient as my mom.
yeah. That's funny.
So yeah, she's
That's awesome.
yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to hear like what are some things for women to think about and to consider as we continue having conversations about race, and kind of specifically
Hmm.
towards like the white
Yeah.
women population.
Mm.
If there's anything you can think of, and it can be encouraging too, but just things that would be helpful to hear.
Yeah, I definitely kind of, I have major trepidation with that question because I want white women, white people to understand there is a point of exhaustion.
Mm,
And there's also a burden that Black people are assumed to carry,
mm,
with teaching white people
yeah,
about racism,
yeah,
because racism is an establishment that white people
Mm.
actually set and put in order.
Yeah.
And so I feel like um, if there truly is a desire to learn about what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, the best people to talk to, honestly, are other white people.
Mm.
And just being honest, I don't really feel that I feel like the barometer on what to say and on what to ask really is only manifested when white people talk to other Black people.
Mm.
But I feel like and I'm just guessing, I don't know. I would assume that when white people talk to other white people, there's a little bit there's not a barometer.
Mm.
There's not these kind of nervous boundaries.
Mm.
Um, I would definitely recommend finding a book, you know, and reading it.
Yeah.
And you don't always assume that, because this is funny because I was just talking about this with one of my girlfriends the other day that when Black people talk to each other, we're not always talking about race. We're talking
Right.
about all kinds of things,
Right.
you know? And so we don't want it to be whenever we have an engagement with a white person that it's always about race or where we have to
Yeah.
be put on this, it's just a burden that is
Mm.
not, we didn't start it. you know,
Yeah.
you know,
Like, why do we have to teach you about this?
right. It's like we don't have to, like, white people don't need to learn racism from Black people. Hello.
Yeah, that's a good
you
point.
know? so, I think just being honest with one
Mm.
another, I feel like white people a lot of times already know what to say and what not to say. But there is this, what is the word? When you do it subconsciously,
Mm.
there is this subconscious assumption of ownership
Yeah.
that when I talk to this Black person, I'm going to make them answer this very uncomfortable question.
Mm.
I'm going to make them talk to me about this.
Mm.
And that repulses me
Yeah.
because it's a roundabout way of still being very racist.
Mm.
So
Man. Yeah, that's
there's
crazy.
there's also I would suggest, have you heard of, it's called surge?
No, I haven't.
So it stands for showing up for racial injustice. I would suggest for white people to look at their local chapter of surge. These are groups and committees put together that are dominantly white, and there's a movement within the white community that they're trying to break down white supremacy.
Yeah.
And that is something that's the way it has to be done.
Mm.
Black people can't continue to try to break down something that white people put in place.
Yeah.
White people need to have a
Mm.
burden of responsibility to try to break it down.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that would be my
Yeah.
suggestions. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really helpful. I'll have to look into
Mhm.
that. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, if there's a chapter in this area.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, like you said, like read a book or like talk to other white people that are maybe like learning things or thinking through these things. Maybe this is more on like a personal level, but like me, I guess, like with you or with another friend that's Black, um, what's like a good way to know like what's okay to ask or what's like being offensive without like sounding
Yeah.
ignorant? Like what's that
Yeah.
balance?
Well, I think that it's just like any other relationship.
Yeah,
I think the key is building relationship.
right.
You know, you wouldn't, I wouldn't ask someone a personal question that I don't have a relationship with.
Yeah.
So it starts with relationship, and I think that there cannot always be this kind of hidden agenda to find out Black secrets or find out, I think that the point
Mm,
in I think it's twofold. I think that we will learn um, about each other by relationship,
yeah.
having lunch, coming to one another's children's functions,
Yeah.
whatever we do with our friends who look like us, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a correct way to know what's offensive and not offensive. And I say that from my
Mm.
special needs background.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, my son was born blind and he's 23. Um, and I would get so angry. Oh my gosh, when people would say or ask these crazy, crazy questions like, is he sleepy? Or, oh my gosh, so he'll never know what you look like? You know,
Yeah.
because my son's totally blind. He's
Mm.
not, you know, legally blind. Uh,
Right.
he's totally blind.
Mm.
And people would, I just remember him being very, very young, and the heartbreak that I had. I did not even say that my son was blind until he was 3 years old.
Mm.
That's when even though I knew that he was blind, I would
Right.
say things like, oh, he has a visual impairment. I
Yeah.
tried to sanitize the fact
Mm.
that he's blind.
Yeah.
And I was going into the manager's office to pay my rent, and there was this white woman named Fran, and I would hold my son, like I would hold him down so people couldn't see his eyes,
Mm.
which I don't know if you've met my son, but to look at him, you don't know that he's blind. That's the crazy thing. You don't
Okay.
realize that he's blind because his eyes are like mine.
Okay.
Um, but I didn't want people to try to play with him and realize that his eyes are not following their
Mm.
eyes. And I go into the office to pay my rent, and Fran just said it. Oh, and it was so offensive. She said, how did she say it? She said, so do you plan on learning Braille because your son is blind? And I remember being like, who are you
Yeah.
to say that to me?
Wow.
And she's looking at me, look at her. And she said, he's blind. Be proud of it. She said, you are the one who will make it dirty. You are. She said, be proud of it. And I
Mm.
had this big giant epiphany
Mm.
that, yeah, she was right.
Wow.
And I remember vividly when I started saying, my son is blind, and it didn't sound dirty. It
Mm.
didn't sound, there wasn't contempt
Yeah.
behind it, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and in raising him, I would come to understand that a lot of the ignorance and unawareness in the special needs community, it's sometimes it's definitely, people mean it,
Yeah.
you know, but sometimes people they're truly ignorant. They don't know what to say,
Yeah.
they feel like they have to say something. And that just kind of translated over to me. If it's like that in the special needs community, then it may very well be like that in, like, when we deal with racism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is the place where I truly learned to not have anger.
Mm.
Um, some people are gonna mean it. They're gonna be intentional.
Yeah.
And some people just feel like they have to say something.
Yeah.
But whether they mean it or don't mean it, or it's, whatever it is, I didn't want to be the one to carry that around in my heart, the same way I didn't want to carry it around in my heart with my son's disability.
Yeah.
So I did have a unique insight there, and I thank God for it. I don't know if I would, had I not had that epiphany, I don't know that I would be able to, say, uh, my son's situation has shown me the absolute worst in man's heart, but it's also shown me the best in man's heart. And had I not had that insight, I don't know that I would be able to have that same attitude with racism.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks for sharing
yeah,
that. I know
yeah, of
you
course.
shared that story with me yesterday a little bit
Mm-hmm.
briefly, and
Mm-hmm.
just that I was going to say analogy, but it's not an analogy because it's real. But
Real
I
life,
guess
yeah.
that comparison, or like the way that epiphany was revealed to you, like,
Yeah.
it's super
Mm-hmm.
cool that in that moment you're like, no, like I'm proud of my son, and I'm proud that this is his reality, and just how that can
Mm-hmm.
transfer over into
Yeah. And
race and
that
cultural
happens.
differences.
Yeah. And that very thing is what happens. I was saying that to say that very thing is a lot of times what happens in Black people,
Yeah.
because from a very young age, as I don't know about other states, but especially here, in a very white California, you learn from a very young age, like I said, there's someone who reveals that your Blackness is bad. And even if it's not a person, if you watch TV, if you read, books, if you watch movies,
Yeah.
then you have, your understanding of what it means to be Black is laced with something very negative.
Hmm.
And you hope, um, I hope and I pray that Black people will have that epiphany that your Blackness is not contemptuous, it's not dirty.
Yeah.
It is something to be very, very proud of. Um, and I think that white people, honestly, need to come to that realization too
Yeah.
about Black people.
Yeah.
There should not be this, like I said, this very lazy assumption that you subconsciously have ownership over this person to the point where you can ask very private, personal questions
Right.
without building, a foundation to
Yeah.
ask that. My closest friends, I can ask anything, and
Yeah.
they can ask me anything. One of my closest friends has sons with autism, and she and we will go toe to toe.
Yeah.
Um, and she can literally ask me anything, and I can ask her anything.
Yeah.
But we would not be able to do that if we did not have a close relationship. So
Yeah.
I think that that's the key.
Yeah.
You've got to build relationships, and that will also break down preconceived ideas about,
Yeah.
other races as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's a great reminder. And I think
Hmm.
I think for myself, like in the last few years, I've been thinking a lot more about that. Like I mean, I grew up most of my life in South Orange County. And so there's a
Oh boy.
lot of white people. And I went to
Hmm.
private Christian school my whole life. So
Hmm.
I just didn't really have a lot of people around me that didn't look like me. And
Hmm.
so I think now that's something that I'm like, man, I really have found value in having
Hmm.
close friendships with
Oh
people
yeah. Hmm.
come from completely different backgrounds and have a,
Hmm.
had a different upbringing and whether that's in race or even just in other areas, but there is a lot of value in having friends from different
Oh
race
yeah.
backgrounds as well.
Yeah,
I feel like I've learned a
absolutely.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Can you
Um,
imagine eating the same thing every single day? It's just the same thing every single day.
yeah.
That is torture.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is torture. And
Mm,
that's how I feel that um, we need to have different flavors and,
yeah.
understand that, you know, e- everything white isn't right, you
Yeah.
know, which is definitely a mental retrograde
Mm,
for, a lot of Black people growing up here, and specifically here in America, with our history and our with our past and present with racism. But I think that the key is starting individually,
yeah.
building
Yeah.
relationships, breaking down preconceived ideas,
Yeah.
letting our kids see us have friends that don't look like us,
Yeah.
and treating everyone with the level of dignity and respect. And, I do not have, honestly, and I'm so grateful for this, I do not have one memory of my mother ever saying anything negative about another race of people,
Mm,
ever. I don't have
wow.
one memory of that. Um, and and I thank God for that,
Yeah.
because I I know that shaped me in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I know I've never talked to anyone who says that that was their experience. And so
Hmm.
I know that's valuable, and I definitely cherish it. Hmm.
Yeah. That's great.
Good.
But just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, is there an author that breaks down racial reconciliation and why is that important for not only African
Hmm.
Americans, but also
Yeah.
for white Americans?
So um, I'm sure that a lot of people have heard about the book White Fragility, and that was written by, I forget her first name, but it's like Dr.
Robin?
D'Angela,
Hmm.
right, who is a white woman.
Hmm.
Well, when you read the bibliography, most of her quotes, a lot of her quotes come from Black authors,
Hmm.
um, which she does say in that book. She's very, very candid. She says that she knows that that there had to be a white person talking about this topic, because of racism,
Mm.
because white people will not learn from Black people, even though Black people have been saying this same stuff for years and years and years.
Right. Right.
But one of the people that she takes a lot of quotes from is Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Okay.
And he wrote a book called Between the World and Me. And I feel like every everyone with breath should read that book.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's what I'll say about Ta-Nehisi Coates. And then there's also a classic called Conspiracy to Kill Black Boys.
Okay.
And that's by Dr. Kawanza Kinjufu. And it's such a powerful. It's several volumes,
Okay.
but he is breaking down what happens to the Black mind, and how it is absolutely a conspiracy to kill the spirit and the soul of Black boys.
Hmm.
And even if you have girls, it's so important to that's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you gave so many great books and resources, and I'm going to link everything in like the show notes for this
okay,
episode. So as people are
good.
listening, if they're like, I can't keep track, like they can just
Right.
literally click and order the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
thank you for sharing all of those.
Yeah, of course.
I do have one closing question that I
Okay.
just love to ask every mom that I chat with.
Yes.
What is the legacy that you want to leave for your children?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really, really great question. Well, I can't help but think about the legacy that my mother is leaving with me. My mother is still with us, praise
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Um, but just what she's instilled in me, I can't help but answer that question without thinking of what she has left for me. And that is definitely the promises of Christ, um, that the personal, tangible relationship is honestly the only well to draw from to find peace and happiness,
yeah,
and the hope and the promise of God are the hopes and the promises are very, very real and very, very tangible. And I do not want my children to go through this life trying to uh, figure things out with their own vices or with their own devices, which figuring it out on your own turn into vices.
yeah.
Um, so, uh, what I would love to leave them with is definitely the importance of building a relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And I would also leave with them to, just love each other, care for each other, and above all, I want to leave wealth to my children. Um, Monetary wealth. I want to make sure that I have land to leave to them, real estate,
Yeah.
and yeah, because that will definitely continue to catapult them, in ways that you struggle without it, and well, that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It seems like
Yeah, of
you've really
course.
thought through that question. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to think through that one again. And man, down to the real estate. I'm like, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Timea, just for taking this time out of your day
Yeah,
to
thank
chat
you.
with
Of
me and let me learn from
course.
you and hear just more of your story.
Yeah, of
But I'm
course.
really excited to share this with other moms and women that are
Yeah.
listening. So thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out all of the goodness from today's episode on the show notes and share this with a friend if it impacted you in any way. You can also leave a review on iTunes so other mamas can join in the movement of loving the woman inside the mother. Join our online Mommy Space community every day by following us on Instagram at Mommy Space, where you can interact with me, some of our past guests, ask simple or hard questions, and give your valuable input on how to make Mommy Space an even more beautiful and safe place for mamas all over the world. All my love to you, Mama. You are enough.